3 buildings went down that day, not 2.
We made it outside. We made it about a block.
We made it at least 2 blocks, and we started running floor by floor instead of popping out.
It was if they had detonated.
Yeah,
If they were planned to take down a building. Boom, 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 boom.
All the way down. I was watching it and running.
Just ran up West
And then you just sort of this cloud of shit chasing you down.
Couldn't
Just
outrun
ran
it.
up West Street.
You could outrun.
So they asked the owner of the building, a man named Larry Silverstein. They asked Mr. Silverstein, well, what made Building 7 fall down? And it fell down around 5 hours after the first 2 fell. And he said the fire department decided to pull it, meaning to bring the building down. That's what he said.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
Yeah, he said we're going to pull. He said we're going to pull the building. Silverstein said we're going to pull the building.
We got the firemen saying they pulled it. I mean, Silverstein goes on PBS and says it, and we're the weirdos when he says it on TV. Unbelievable. Let's see that one more time.
Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse.
It takes demolition experts weeks to prepare for the destruction of a building. How do they do it on 9/11 in just a few hours?
That's what he said.
So we pulled it.
Now, that was a big mistake on his part. If you know anything about controlled demolitions, you know for a building that size, it would take weeks, weeks to control demolition in that building, to plant explosives on all the floors in all the right places. You couldn't do it in 4 or 5 hours and all the chaos going on there. And you couldn't do it in 4 or 5 hours if there was no chaos going in there. It's impossible. So once you know that, and he admitted it was controlled demolition, then you realize that that building had been set up for weeks in advance of 9/11 ever happened.
Pancake theory, according to which the fires, while not melting the steel, heated it up sufficiently to cause the floors weakened by the airplane strikes to break loose from the steel columns, and this started a chain reaction.
So you would expect then from that theory, which is the official theory, to see a whole stack of floors piled up on top of each other and then a spindle of core columns standing too.
The core of each of the twin towers consisted of 47 massive steel columns. If the floors had broken loose from them, these columns would have still been sticking up into the air 1,000 feet.
The plane did not cut all those core columns.
We designed the buildings to take the impact of the Boeing 707 hitting the building at any location.
The building probably could sustain multiple impacts of jetliners.
That the plane flew straight into the building.
Through him, right. Yeah.
So you're saying that the building was actually designed to cope with a hole like that and, still survive?
Yeah, it was.
If you had dropped, say, a billiard ball
from the top of the World Trade Center, 110 floors up there. It would have taken 8 to 10 seconds to hit the ground, encountering no resistance whatsoever.
The Twin Towers came down in nearly free fall speed. 200,000 tons of steel shatters and explodes outwards over 500 feet.
This means that floors shattered at an average rate of about 10 floors per second.
There is no scenario for a pancake effect of buildings falling that allows them to fall at the rate of free fall.
Now what can do that? What can move mass out of the way? Explosives. "47 huge steel columns going up the core. They're interconnected. How do you get them to fail simultaneously so the core disappears? It looks like those core columns were cut.
The way we do this is by cutting the beam at an angle.
I started looking at the molten metal. All three buildings, both towers, in the rubble, in the basement areas, and Building 7, there's these pools of molten metal.
You'd get down below and you'd see molten steel running down the channel rails, like you're in a foundry. Like lava.
The molten steel was found 3, 4, and 5 weeks later, when the rubble was being removed. He said that molten steel was also found underneath World Trade Center 7.
So I'm looking through the official reports. What do they say about the molten metal? They say nothing. But wait a minute. This is important evidence. So where did that come from? Thermite is so hot that it'll just cut through steel, through structural steel, for example, like a knife through butter. The products are molten iron and aluminum oxide, which goes off primarily as a dust. You know those enormous dust clouds? You can imagine when you assemble these chemicals on a large scale.
These photos make it appear as if a few Arabs attacked America, and that the airplane crashes and the fires caused the buildings to collapse. However, when we take a close look at how the buildings collapsed, we can see evidence that explosives were used. For example, dust shot out of a few windows far below the collapsing area. This dust is caused by extremely high pressure, but it comes out of only a few windows. It is a couple hundred feet below the collapsing area. When we look closely at the area that is collapsing, we find dust shooting out of every window of the entire floor at the same time. The building broke apart in only 8.4 seconds because explosives, not falling debris, broke the joints. The collapse of Building 7 provides more evidence of explosives. This was a 47-story building with a steel frame. It was not hit by an airplane. It was across the street from the towers. Late in the afternoon, this building collapsed.